Good afternoon, everybody. Got a little request to show folks how to harden a frizzen for a flintlock. Gonna use a little charcoal today. Not gonna go with the coal. It's a little cleaner. First of all, I've got a new frizzen, so I don't know if it's hard or not. Doesn't matter as long as I don't keep dropping it. We're gonna set it right in the bed of the charcoal. Just like that. Use your tongs. And while we're waiting for this to warm up a little bit, today I brought out my Kennedy Auto forge. It's a travel forge. We're used for riveting, shoeing, whatever you want to use it for. Early 1900s, probably I don't know, 1920s, 1930s, something like that. In my opinion, is probably one of the best forges ever built because it's so smooth. You can hardly hear it, super quiet. It puts out a lot of air. Now if you let go of the handle, it's so smooth and so well built, keeps right on running for another 4 or 5 seconds. But today we're going to just use a compound, surface hardening compound, because it's easy to do. You can even use a torch. It's called It. I do believe you can still get it. I've had this for probably 20 years, and it's what I use. And we're starting to run colors on the frizzen. You saw how silver it was before. We're starting to run colors. By running colors, I'm not even sure if you can see this, but I'll try to do my best. Now, running colors, you can see that rainbow effect in the metal. That's running color. What I want to get is I want to get this to a dull red so I can apply the hardening compound. And what it does, it almost bubbles, it almost liquefies and burns into the iron or into the steel, whatever you're hardening. Now normally they use a drop of water to drop on the frizzen. Really don't like doing that. I want the frizzen to be evenly heated so I don't drop water on them. I mean, there's a million ways to do this stuff, but this is just the way I do it. But like I said, you can use a propane torch at home in a vise, and you get it to a glowing red. You don't want to go too far. You don't want to go into the oranges. Don't want to get it too hot. Now I'll take a little bit of this compound and drop it on the frizzen. And what it does, you can probably hear it sizzle. It sounds a little bit like bacon. My favorite. And we'll keep heating it. Of course, have to use a proper tool. And it'll sit there, it'll spit, it'll sputter, it'll bounce up and down. The case in it, that is. And we want to keep a nice even heat. Move the charcoal around, or coal, or whatever you're doing. Move it around a little bit. Keep the heat underneath the frizzen. And I can see, unfortunately, well, that's why I have a camera, because I can move it. You can see how the compound is starting to almost liquefy. That's what we want. That means we're working properly. And for those of you out there looking for a forge, if you can find a Kennedy Auto, get it. By far one of, in my opinion, of course, one of the best. Now we just keep the air to the charcoal. And I like charcoal doing something like this because it's a little bit cleaner, or actually a lot cleaner than coal. The ashes aren't very clean, but if you keep a slow, steady draft of air to the fire, it won't spit anything up on top of the frizzen. Like I said, you want to even heat. So even if we have to move it around a little bit to keep it even, that's what I'm going to do. A few little sparks is probably from the wood that I used to start the coal or the charcoal. I remember those little snakes we used to light when we were kids. Those little carbon snakes, they were a little pellet and they used to curl around on the ground. Well, that's almost what this stuff does. Only it doesn't look like I have a snake growing. Okay. Now it's solidified on the bottom. So it was almost like one piece of case in it. And I like to keep the temperature. I watch the frizzen. And if there's any spots that look like they might be losing a little heat due to due to the fact that the charcoal is burning down, I will move the frizzen around in the fire because you're not going to lose that much heat. Okay. And you can tell pretty much when the first application has done its job and it's played out. I will do 2 applications because that's what I do on all my frizzens. And the frizzen doesn't have to be perfectly level in the forge either, because once this stuff hits the frizzen with the color that it's at right now, it's going to stick right to it. And it's actually putting carbon into the frizzen, so when your flint strikes it, it's going to create spark. And sometimes you can even tell when the case in it is ready to be turned or scraped off or whatever, because it starts turning white on top because it's burning everything out of the compound. It's going right into the frizzen. Here we go again. Perfect. I think we got it. And some people, they like to take the frizzen right out and quench it quick. I'd rather allow it to anneal to let it air cool. Just scrape the stuff off, because we're going to polish this later anyways. Because that pretty shiny frizzen that was silver a little while ago, that's not so pretty anymore. But we can polish that right out. That doesn't take much. There's a few different polishing compounds out there that will do the job beautifully, and it'll bring the frizzen right back to the color it used to be. So that's basically it. Like I said, you can use charcoal, coal fire. You can even do it in a fire pit, your campfire, as long as you have a good bed of coals, or use a propane torch. But just be careful you don't overheat, that's all. Just mind your fire, mind the color of your frizzen, and keep a close eye on the case in it, and you'll be all set. There we go. That's it for today. Hardening a frizzen. Done. Have a good afternoon.